Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today I am reviewing the Warhammer 40,000 app, which just released on Marketplace for Apple, I think, and for Google devices, Android, all today, and allows you to digitally enhance your games of Warhammer 40,000 by looking at the core index rules, the core rules for the game itself, and to create army lists in its army list creation section. Now, I held off doing a review of this until it launched on the Marketplace store so that I could actually show you some functionality, do some screen overlays, and more importantly, review this based on my experience with other apps in this same Marketplace and environment. As I play a lot of miniature games that have digital assets and drivers for their games, and I wanted to use that to kind of contextualize what I think about this app so far. So let's jump in and actually take a look at the app itself. Now, the app itself, when you jump to the screen, has a welcome. Your journey into the Warhammer 41st Millennium starts here. Use this app to check out game rules, unit abilities, and more. And as I've already logged in, it jumps me right to the build an army screen. Now you can see here immediately the similarities between this and the AOS app. Now the AOS app will allow you to parse all of your factions on the first reference screen. This exact same thing, reference screen, Battleforge profile down at the bottom. The initial impression of this app is it is a reskinned copy of the AOS app. And my initial impression of that is that's a good thing. I have used the AOS app extensively to build army lists, and having this in here to allow you to parse the rules for the game, which includes, of course, here the core book, as it does the core rules, right? You also have the parsing of the combat patrols. So you have individual data sheets for each combat patrol, and then the indexes to go along with them. So no matter what format you want to play the game in with the launchable Leviathan, you have stuff to like actually support you here. Then we have Battleforge, which much like the AOS app, allows you, same pictographically, to build an army. You can see here again, the apps are virtually identical. But there's one thing at the top here. It says you have full access to the Battleforge army building tool for a limited time only. What's interesting about that is seems to be an announcement. This is going to go to a paid format. We don't know when, but if it's anything like the previous apps, such as Stormforge for AOS, and the previous Warhammer 40,000 app, it means that this would be bundled inside your Warhammer Plus subscription. So while everyone has access to this now, and I am a Warhammer Plus subscriber, mostly because I think the models are cool and my son loves watching the animations, this will then become sort of like a paid format thing. Now, I don't know what that means. I'm hoping what that means is, much like the Warhammer Stormforge AOS app, it will continue to be updated with this app here, is always updated with the newest army rules. The things that are locked behind a paywall are typically the army special rules. So for instance, if I was to go to reference and then go down to, let's say, a book I don't own. What book don't I own? I don't know if I have Ossiarch Bone Reapers unlocked. So if I go to like Battle Tactics, you see here the locks along all the screens here. If I enter my book code, that means that I can then go look at them. If it follows the format of the AOS app, you can expect something similar maybe for 40K, but there's been no announcement or news about that. I just assume that that's what that little tab there has to mean. So these are the ways in which, at first blush, this is very similar to the AOS app. And that's a good thing. It means they're using the same architecture technology, which means it's updatable and fluid and fairly functional. Now, having played several games with this already, the thing I noticed is it is very quick to build an army. There are actually a few differences between this and the core steps in the AOS app, but for the most part, it's just cosmetic. So if I wanted to make a Space Marine army, let's say Ultramarines, or let's say Ultra Mans, there we go. At 1,000 points using the Gladius Task Force, it's just a couple, Ultra and, I like that it just totally auto-corrected there. We then create army, and we can start adding in all of our units. This is, again, very similar to the army creation rules in the AOS, or the army creation stuff in the AOS app, where we would have an unnamed army, let's say test Stormcast, choose a faction. So you choose your faction previously in the other screen, as you saw. I go to Stormcast Eternals, and then sure, I'll be no sub faction. Choose a point limit, and it's just it's on different sort of like tabs. Choose battle packs, sorry, pitch battles, choose point limit 1,000, and then we create an army. And now we're in almost an identical screen here. You can see here, we hit the plus button, it'll bring up our unit options, versus here we have all of our unit options kind of parsed by type. So I'll add my Biologus, my Captain and Terminator armor, and go back. There's a search bar, which is handy. I'll add some Assault Intercessors. And then we have we can actually duplicate units, which is handy. That was one thing I was kind of worried about, was whether or not we'd be able to quickly duplicate units. So like, let's say I go into my unit, I want to add more Marines. I then have to go add their war gear. It doesn't do it automatically. I found this feature kind of awkward. So I add the models, but I don't get to add their war gear automatically. I have to go back and do it. I can then, if I just want to quickly duplicate that unit, I can make it again. It'll also show me that I have to have a warlord. So let's make my captain my warlord and buy him, I don't know, artificer armor or adeptic builder discipline. There we go. All the enhancements. And now I have a legal army with a check mark. So it does validate my army list for me, which I thought was kind of nice. The other units are then parsed as well. So that's the main differential between this and the AOS app. Is in the AOS app, it's just headers, right? In the second screen, this is just headers on the first screen with your plus app. So again, here I can add a unit. It'll still tell me that same validation stuff. So you can see all these similarities. Now, once I get to having made my army, oh, sorry, we're in the old app now. We're not gonna look at that. I'm just gonna close that because that's neither here nor there. Once we get into our army, if we want to quickly bring up a unit, there is no play functionality. When you have your units built here, so here's my army built. If I want to reference what they do quickly, I can hit them and then hit this sheet, and it will bring up their index. But it is 3 clicks away. So it's still in this sort of screen here where you're able to alter them mid-game is kind of in the way. I do wish if there was just a play button that then as soon as I clicked on these things, it brought up this sheet. I think there'd be a lot more functionality to play this in the game. I know it sounds like a minor gripe, but 6 games in, going between one or two units, like if let's say you've got a character and a unit fighting in melee. So my Apothecary Biologist, let's say, is leading my Assault Intercessor squad. He can't, but you know what I mean. If I want to see what his melee attacks do, I bring up his melee attacks. Then I quickly have to tap once, I have to tap twice, I have to tap 3 times, I have to tap 4 times, 5 times, now to find out what the melee attacks of my Assault Intercessors do. Something that allows me to either quickly just bring up my army list and maybe swipe left, right between units, or just reduce the number of taps to push these things around would be fantastic. The old AOS app had a bunch of you could build an army with just war scrolls without using any points, and you could swipe left and right through it, and it was tremendous. You can't do that anymore, unfortunately, but you used to be able to just create an army of war scrolls and then quickly swipe between the war scrolls, and it was very simple and very basic, but very functional as well, and much appreciated. And that's basically the limit of what this app can do right now. You can reference material, you can build army lists. With a few extra taps, you can pop in between the army list entries, and we know that there is a free period for this app, and then more sort of to come, I guess, at a later date when it gets announced. And so now I wanted to compare that to some of the other apps on the market. So the first thing I wanted to compare it to actually is a pay app for a game that's basically dead, for Privateer Press's War Machine. I have had this app for a bajillion years, as you can see, because I got a lot of army lists in here. But I'm capable of building new armies. Whenever I build an army, I can pick all my factions. Now, there was a pay for this app at the beginning, basically. You bought all of the different factions. You could buy them individually or you could buy a bundle. I just bought the bundle, so I had everything all at once. And then the game updated everything for free with every release into the future. So even like the Infernals, like I haven't played the game since these guys came out, but like I can make an army for a faction that didn't exist when I bought this app. I can add its Warcaster. Then I can create its battle group. I can add a bunch of units and solos. I can then create its battle group with a couple clicks. And there's my army done. I can pick a theme for it. So even like the special rules for my various theme things I can do. And then once my army's made, I'll go back, it'll say, yes, save it. It will save my army list. And I have another option from the main screen. I'd build an army, and then down here you can see I have go to war. And if I want to go to war, I can add any of the army lists I've created. So let's say this Infernal army list I just made, and then hit a play button. Now this play button allows me to do all kinds of things. But most importantly, it allows me to do things like track damage, right? I can track when something's dead or alive. It actually gives me my status effects. So like if things are broken, like your different various like aspects in the Lamenter there can get broken. Those are tracked as well. And whenever I want to see what a unit does, I just click on it and I bring up all of its special rules. Now, that functionality doesn't seem like a lot until you realize that when I went to war and I played that game, I was one click away from knowing anything I wanted at any time. I could just quickly parse that information and see all of it in any one go, and it tracked all my in-game effects, right? And let me keep score of basically who's playing and how. This is another pay app. So if the 40K app is going to be a pay app, I'm hoping that it does the two things that this app does, even though this game is sort of like, this edition of the game obviously is no longer, this is for War Machine Mark III, it doesn't even exist anymore. So this is a completely out-of-date like game. But I paid for this. I can now play this game forever and have an additional layer of content from that one-time purchase. If this is going to become a pay app, there needs to be some variation of this inside of the 40K app. There needs to be some additional content that allows for things like creating a mission or seeing mission rules for the mission you're playing, or quickly tracking damage on things, tracking wounds, because that was a pay app. Let's look at a free app. This is the Malifo free app, and this app has all the same functionality, right? It allows me to create a crew, create a game, so it actually allows me to create like the scenario and setup, and then I can join a game by signing into the network and actually matching up all my information on my army list, my crew list, with my opponent. So not only does this app allow me to, again, quickly see all the rules for the game at a glance, create a list, right? Add upgrades and enhancements. I can make a crew here, so I add my crew, I pick a faction I want to play, I select my master, and then, sorry, I'm still in building mode. it's showing me all the things that it can do. This is handy. Upgrading my models, sweet. It's teaching me all this stuff because I just reinstalled this app because I haven't played this in a while. Once I've saved it, so I've saved my crew here. Let's say I want to add some dudes. I'll add a flying piglet. I'll add a wrestler. I'll add a bayou smuggler. I'll save this list. And then I go back to playing a game. I'm gonna go to games and I'm gonna create a game. So I add a new game. I've got all my deployment. This is basically randomly generated my mission, and I can do either local or network. If I do it local, I just start playing, and this allows me to track all of my in-game stuff. Team 1, Team 2, so I'd be Team 1, the other person would be Team 2. If I go to join a game, I'd go to the network, and then I get to add that crew to the game and play as well. So we're looking at a free app basically that has all that same functionality as the game, like the two Games Workshop apps, but also has an in-game play system. A third one from another small company is the Infinity app. This app allows you to both store lists online, submit lists for tournaments, and quickly build army lists as well. So if I want to open any of my same lists, you can see I've got a million different saved army lists for this game. I'll open my Gator list for my nomads, or I can quickly go back and make a new one by tabbing through. It shows me all of my unit entries, all of their stat lines. So if I want to add, let's say, an Aguasil Lieutenant, a Daktari Doctor, it requires me to just click on it quickly, and then I can swipe over and see my list in progress. I can also, with clicking the weapon here, see all the weapon stats in the game. I can see all the hacking abilities in the game. It has just as much referential material in all my fire teams and special rules. I can delete the list quickly if I want to clear the list and start over, and then I can go back to the main screen and open a list that I previously saved online. Now you'll notice in the top right corner there, it also has a play button. So much like the Malifo one or the War Machine one, I'm able to quickly start a mission, track things like their states. So do they have wounds on them? Are they dead? So I know how many points I have remaining. And if I click on any unit, it will show me all of its special rules. And if I click on a special rule, I'm not going to the internet right now because I put this on airplane mode, but it'll bring up the actual unit entry of the rule on the always updated living document wiki that exists for Infinity. So I can see any rules reference all the time for my unit during a game and also track all of its statuses and stuff while I'm playing. I can bring up any weapon stats that are on the list or the factions. It allows me to parse between. I can see what's available to me or what I've actually brought with me. Same with hacking like devices and their various programs, and then all my fire team charts, and also various things like the booty chart and the metachemistry chart. So these are 2 free apps that have all the same functionality as the Warhammer 40k app and the AOS app, but additional features as well. So with that that long story basically now being told, I wanted you to have some context for my review of this app. This feels like a pilot. This app is functional for creating army lists. It doesn't show us any more or less information than we've been given for free in the indexes and all the charts and the core book rules. And when it goes behind the paywall, which it's announced that it'll eventually it'll be a pay function of Warhammer Plus, we don't have any real indication at the moment as to what additional service it's going to provide. So they need to be very good, I think, for it to be compelling as the only reason you're signing up to Warhammer Plus. I personally have a bunch of reasons. I get a lot of value to my Warhammer Plus subscription. My kids like watching the shows. I enjoy them every now and again. I like the quick reference of having the apps to build my games, but it's not necessary for me. I like that the AOS app is constantly updated through that pay service, but I get more value out of 2 free apps in the app ecosphere right now in Wargaming than I do out of the apps themselves with a pay experience. I'm mostly paying for Warhammer Plus for the digital video content and the miniature that I get every year. I wouldn't pay for it if it was just 2 apps, because those apps lack features that free apps right now in the Wargaming ecosystem give. And because Games Workshop is a AAA product designer and a AAA business, and makes an infinite interstellar order of magnitude more money and has more resources than some of these smaller companies like Weird or Corvus Belli, who do free apps to run and update their games all the time online, I expect there to be AAA level of quality in their product. So overall, is it functional? Yes. Does it make army lists? Yes. Is it better than the old 40k app? Absolutely. Is it a good app compared to free apps in the ecosystem in the marketplace? It's a 2 out of 5 right now. It just makes army lists. It's an army list creating app. It doesn't add any additional level of functionality or experience to the game. And everything this app does, you can do quickly with a pen and paper and the index cards and core rules that are free online. So if you like having all that stuff digitally in your pocket, fantastic. That's its main feature, is it shrinks down and speeds up having a calculator function on your phone, and having to flip through the core rules of the game, and your index cards, which again are also available for sale or for free online. So as it's free right now, while it's free, I'll give it a 3 out of 5 because it does what it does in the tin. It makes army lists, lets you play the game. It's a bit clunky. It's an obvious reskin of the AOS app, which is a good thing, honestly, compared to the previous app infrastructure. But is it a great app that will add value to the Warhammer Plus service when it goes behind the paywall? It needs more to be that. To entice people behind the paywall for Warhammer Plus, it needs to have more functionality than it currently has. And that's it. Because I think if you compare it to any of the other free apps in the ecosystem for creating army lists, and sorry, there's way more than I've just shown you. There's a BattleTech app that also allows in-game tracking. There's half of the miniature games I think that you see on prevalent in local game stores and through distributors right now have some type of free monitoring app for their games. Some of them are fan made. Most of them are company supported or company made, and a lot of them do the experience of augmenting the tabletop experience of a war game better than this 40k app does right now, with more features and more sort of like quality of life improvements over just using the digital rules and rule books that are available online. So yeah, while it's free, 3 out of 5. If it doesn't add anything additional and goes behind a paywall, it might keep its 3 out of 5 as long as it continues to update like the iOS app does. As long as it doesn't lose, as long as you can't compare it to the iOS app and it loses no additional features, I'd keep that 3 out of 5, but it needs to add more overall to, I think, be a premium Wargaming app. And I think that right now it's, if I was to rank the Wargaming apps, it's probably not in the top 5. It's just a functional calculator basically overall with some handy quick tabbed rules references that could be tabbed quicker compared to other games. So there it is, my GMG review of the Warhammer 40K app. Thanks GW for the early access, but again, I wanted to be able to show this stuff in comparison, so I waited until after this was already launched and out to do this review. Big thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Until then, I'm Ash. Have a good one. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.